Editing Zeke here. I'm sorry about the grainy noise. I do a better job later about making sure I mute the mic. This is still new to me, so forgive me if my quality isn't where I want it to be. But I end up muting the mic and then you can hear much better because it was annoying me in editing, so I get it. But just wanted to say that. All right, guys, nice to see you again. Today we are going to have a video about financial repression that I want my audience to learn. Essentially, it's how your wealth is in danger. And I say wealth because wealth and money are different. Wealth is the value we've accumulated over time, the good stuff. The byproducts of things we've done is wealth because the rich has gotten more wealthier. And in situations like this, when we're in so much debt, there's almost no choice. They have to essentially steal wealth from you now. And this is what financial repression is. So I want us to watch this video so we can have an understanding of this. So we're gonna get started. Switch. And we're gonna watch this video from Harrison Financial. His link, his video will be below if you want to give him your own shout out. But this is a type of guy this is what I listen to, and I think my audience should have an understanding of what this is. So let's get it started.
It might be time to start thinking about getting at least some of your wealth outside the system before it's too late. Because by the time you need to get your wealth out, you may not be able to. Back in the 1940s, right after World War II ended, the US government's debt to GDP ratio briefly peaked above 120%. Now, GDP is the measure of every...
All right, I'm going to basically repeat what this disclaimer is. When you hear financial advisors say, not financial advice, because we cannot, I used to do this job, you cannot give generalized advice to people because which an investment for one person is not technically a good investment for another person. So if everyone takes that advice in face value, they're missing one of the most important parts, which is why financial advisors are valuable. It's your situation, your financial situation, your life goals, what you value in a lifestyle. Having an understanding of that will give us the best chance to make the best investment for you using money. That's our job, or was my job. I'm a coach now, which I hope my audience is getting some good value from this. But ultimately, we cannot give generalized advice to people because everyone's life situation is different. What is a good investment for one person is not necessarily a good investment for another person. So we must make that disclaimer, and I'm saying it right now for my audience. Until I look at your financial situation, I can't give you any advice. I can just educate you, and then you look at your own life, you analyze your finance, and then you can probably see flaws in ways you can strengthen your financial foundation through things like a Roth IRA or investing in the S&P 500 or buying real estate. All these type of investment strategies that we could use.
States government implemented a 100% tax on all economic activity for an entire year and used that not to spend any of the regular spending, but just to pay down the debt. They'd still have 20% left over. Now, this explosion in debt relative to the size of the economy was obviously due to the insane increase in spending to fund the war. And so following this, the government shrank its expenses, the economy grew, had a big increase in productivity, the Federal Reserve engaged in yield curve control, and the government instituted capital controls and financial repression, and all of the above forced a growing economy to shoulder the burden of the US government deleveraging through inflation, and the government was able to get its own debt relative to the size of the economy down to about 30% after about 40 years. But obviously the story didn't end there, because once the government's debt got to a very manageable level relative to the size of the economy, they said, well, let's just start borrowing again. And so starting around 1980, they reversed course and started increasing their leverage yet again, borrowing more and more and more at lower and lower interest rates until we got back up to where we were after World War II, today sitting around 125% debt to GDP ratio, which means the government is in the exact same position they were at the end of World War II. Only this time, we don't have a war to end to cancel the spending. The spending is on entitlements that are legally required, things like Social Security, Medicare, which means there's no austerity coming. In fact, you could cancel the entire discretionary part of the government's budget and they'd still be spending more than they take in taxes. So the spending is not slowing down. The last time we also had basically all of the men come home from war and start working and being productive again. But today, all the men are already here working and being productive. And in fact, most of the women are too, which means we do not have a significant increase in the working population right around the corner. So two of the main drivers that help the government deleverage last time are not available this time, which means they're going to be relying a lot more heavily on the other drivers, mainly inflating away the debt. Problem is, if you can escape the inflation, then it makes the inflating away the debt part a lot harder for them. They need to have somebody to offload the cost to. So if you can protect yourself from it, they're not offloading that cost onto you, which makes their job harder. And
ultimately, that's the exact reason why, that's a great explanation. This is why I love this channel. That is the explanation of why you need to be informed, because no one is looking to help you. They are looking to take advantage of you at any way they can. So the best way to counteract it is getting stuff, which he'll mention, gold, getting real estate, getting high income skills, business skills, a way to earn money. And I'm not gonna go too deep into it because he's gonna go into it, but I just want to repeat what he says because it's so true. Using the wealth you have now to give value to things that can be more fruitful in the future. This is essentially what I'm doing with this YouTube channel. I am trying to implement my skills to earn a living by providing real value to people that I believe that's needed. That, in my opinion, is what you should be putting your wealth into. Because if it prospers, then you are in what's called an abundance of wealth. And now you can share it by giving people opportunities that you probably never even thought of. Giving people jobs. Like people really underestimate the value of being able to give a helping hand to someone because you just have the power to do so. Everyone can get into that situation, but unfortunately to carry a burden, because it is a burden. People don't understand about wealth. Wealth is a burden because people are relying on you, especially as men. And I'm sure most of my audience will probably be men, but for especially men, it's on us to hold the burden of wealth because people are relying on us. This is what it means to have a family, because family relies on you. But in finance, it can extend way past it, even past your community. You can do things like, as much as people, I think I said in my last video, Elon Musk, whatever your opinions are about him, he's using his wealth for SpaceX because he's passionate about Mars. Just by one man's passion, he can put his wealth into. And everyone, like I said, had their opinion on him. But he single-handedly revived NASA, as bad as that is, because there are some downsides to that. But NASA was critically underfunded for decades. SpaceX is the reason that they've gotten a revolution of money now through SpaceX, which is a private company, by the way, which gets around a few legal frameworks, so to speak. Not saying he's not self-serving, because of course he is, but the byproduct of that is now we are exploring space again. which I think isn't something that I would rather be putting my money into personally, just saying. But let me get back to this video because I like to ramble.
One of the ways they do this is through financial repression. You can actually go back onto the Fed's own website. This one is richmondfed.org, and you can read what they say about using financial repression as a monetary policy tool, specifically asking the question on whether or not they will come back. These restrictions can include things like domestic interest rate ceilings and capital controls that prevent citizens from buying foreign currencies. And even the Fed admits there is no doubt that they can facilitate deficit financing by creating a captive market for government debt. That is not a symptom, that is the goal. Now, it is true that back in the 1940s, gold ownership was already illegal. Stock ownership was very difficult. Things like 30-year fixed rate mortgages on houses didn't exist yet. It is true that the 30-year mortgage was authorized in 1948, but it wasn't until 1954 that it was extended to existing homes. And it also wasn't even until the 1960s where it gained widespread acceptance. And even stock ownership was very difficult back then. It was very expensive. You had to have a broker. Commissions were crazy. You had to wait to get paper certificates. It was not nearly as easy as it is today to get your cash into assets. And so financial repression was a pretty simple tool for a government to use because a lot of people had most of their savings in savings. And so if you could cap interest rates on what people could get at places like banks, well, they would put their money into US government bonds. And if the rate that they were receiving was less than the rate of inflation, they didn't really have any other choice. And discussion of bringing back totalitarian financial controls like this are becoming more popular. In fact, in just March of this year, the World Economic Forum posted an article about financial repression and whether countries should embrace it as their debt load climbs. They specifically use, in the wake of World War II, as an example of how governments were able to deleverage. They go on to say that financial repression is an attractive prospect to help governments bring down their debt to GDP ratio. In very simple words, what this means in real terms is making it illegal for you to put your wealth into other assets and forcing you to put your wealth, or at least some of it, into government assets. In other words, loaning your money to the government. This forces you to destroy your own wealth. You receive interest or growth that is less than the rate of inflation. Your purchasing power declines. And in the process, you are paying off the government's debt for them. But it's not just the World Economic Forum. Just days ago, President Trump issued a travel ban over golden passports in the Caribbean.
Now, the reason why I paused it there is because that's actually something I'm planning on doing, is getting myself what he's about to refer to when it comes to an investment visa. He's starting to attack the investment visa. Now, this isn't just about Donald Trump. This is the United States government as an entity. It doesn't matter who's in office. This is, in my opinion, the elite versus everyone else, because they can protect themselves. That's the difference. And people in power have always done this. And there will be, unfortunately, a lot of people who are going to lose a lot. But I'm not going to be that person. And I'm going to inform my audience in hopes that they're not going to be that person. And this is what I hope that people can stave themselves away from. Because they're going to start doing it slowly but surely. It's very slow. It's baby steps. And people are so divisive about politics these days. We can't talk about this because most of the political arena is so busy fighting each other, not realizing that they have $38 trillion they need to escape from. And everybody outside of the elite is about to be holding the bag. They don't care about left or right. Yeah, there's some problems when it comes to certain issues because that's politics. But at the end of the day, it's about power. And in this world, unfortunately, the way you facilitate power is through wealth. That's why greedy people want all the money in the world, because in this world, using money, you can facilitate power by, for example, if I pay one of you guys in my audience $500,000 to edit my video because I don't feel like doing it no more, most likely you guys are going to jump at the opportunity. That's what it means to facilitate power. With money, you'll do whatever I want. Well, no, I can't even say within reason, because if you pay someone enough, they might do irreprehensible things. So I can't even say that, because I was going to say something crazy. I can't even say it. But in the really though, and by being real, that's why when money is what binds all these people, and understanding how to escape that, because there are ways you can still escape despite the fact that he's doing this. There's still ways we can escape this, and I'm still doing it as we speak. But it's being informed is the most important thing. Unbiased information. See it for what it is. Have your own political views, but understand financially, we all together here. They're trying to take advantage of you. Now, let's be one of the few, because I don't got many people here that escape some of this stuff. And for the athletes in the area, this is where, especially for them, it really helps. Because if you marry any other woman, you can get a visa just through marriage. But this is the other way, and this is the way I'm doing. It's through investment. If you have enough money, you can now buy an investment at a Caribbean country and get an investment visa. But I do believe that the undertone of why they push this is what he's going to describe right here.
The increasingly popular strategy that high net worth individuals have begun using is getting second citizenships, or at least residencies, in other countries to allow them to shift some of their wealth out of the country, so that if push comes to shove and the day ever comes where they need to leave, they can. And it looks like the current administration is making moves to make that difficult, or maybe even impossible. So while the opportunity still exists, I think there are 5 main ways that people can use to get wealth outside the system, whether it is outside the dollar system or outside the country, to protect your wealth so that if the day comes where you need it, you already have it, because by that time it may be too late to start. And the first, I think, is probably the most obvious, is buying gold. Now, this in particular, for this reason that we're discussing today, does not include things like GLD or gold mutual funds inside of a 401k or an IRA. That is not outside the system. The most likely outcome with that is that you do protect your purchasing power as the price of gold rises and the price of those funds rises along with it, because they take your money behind the scenes and invest in gold. But if push comes to shove and you need wealth outside the system, you need physical gold waiting for you somewhere. And this means you have it in storage in a different country. I don't think that it is likely at all that the United States outlaws gold ownership or seizes the gold from American citizens again. But if they do, you want some gold at least somewhere else. And there are 6 vital things that you need to make sure of if you are buying gold in a different country. Number 1, you need to make sure that the gold is allocated. This is kind of like the difference between fractional reserve banking and not. Allocated gold means you're the only one that owns physical gold there. Unallocated means they have 1 bar and they have a lot of people who have claims on that 1 bar, which means if you ever request physical delivery, they'll probably have to go and source that gold and buy it from somewhere else first to be able to deliver it to you. Unallocated gold, I call it gold owership. They owe you gold. Allocated gold is gold ownership. There's an actual piece of gold that you own. Number 2, you want that gold segregated. In other words, you have a physical piece that is separated on a shelf in the vault away from somebody else's. There's physical separation. Number 3, you want it insured so that if there is any theft or any loss for any reason, that the company and your gold there is insured. Number 4, you want it independently audited. There are plenty of companies that show their audits, but they're doing their audits themselves. You want independent audits of the vaults. Number 5, you want these vaults to be private, not government controlled. It is too easy for governments to nationalize and take over, in other words, steal gold if it is already in a vault that belongs to the government. So you want your gold stored in a private company vault. And then number 6, you want no history of wealth confiscation, specifically gold confiscation. And that's why, we're talking about getting wealth outside the US system, so you're also not going to want it in the country that you live in. But the United States is a country with a rich history of gold theft. FDR outlawed gold ownership and stole it from all American citizens. Then Nixon stole gold from the rest of the world. Canada has history with at least temporary wealth confiscation. In other words, taking groups of people and saying, no, you cannot have access to the money or the wealth that is yours. The Bank of England has history with wealth confiscation, specifically gold confiscation, telling other countries, no, you cannot have the gold. So you want your vault located in a country that has a high degree of economic freedom, really good rule of law, and has no history of wealth confiscation by the government. If you do this, you'll be ahead of 95% of people, because if push comes to shove someday and you do have to leave, the government starts taking your wealth, financial repression, capital controls, you already have wealth outside the system that they cannot access, that they do not know about. Number two, this is going to be controversial because I know a lot of you do not like Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is permissionless. If you hold your Bitcoin in cold storage, you can go anywhere in the world with a phrase in your head and take that wealth with you anywhere. You can use it for payments without permission. It's what peer-to-peer means. There's no big brother watching over your shoulder telling you, no, you can't send that wire, or why do you need to get this cash? Having at least some of your wealth in Bitcoin is a hedge against a totalitarian financial regime. Number three is real estate, and this is true in a couple of different ways. The first way is just your regular standard, get a single family home with a renter in it, make sure that property cash flows so that it's paying for its own debt service, you're not negative every month, and you have a 30-year fixed rate mortgage on it. The reason for this is because in today's day and age, that 30-year fixed rate mortgage is really the asset. The house is just the collateral that allows you to have the asset. The reason why getting your wealth outside the system means, in part, having a 30-year fixed rate mortgage is because technically that is a short position on the US dollar. If we expect a possibility of deleveraging through inflation, yield curve control, financial repression, capital controls, that means the purchasing power of the dollar goes down. You want the ability to profit from that. And in investing and trading, the position that allows you to profit from the price or the value of something going down is a short position. Technically speaking, a short position means you borrow something and then exchange it for something else. So when you borrow dollars and exchange it for real estate, you owe back dollars. When you put a tenant in place, they pay you back the dollars that you owe for you. You don't have to come up with that yourself from your own earned income. That allows you to profit from a decrease in the purchasing power of the dollar, giving you a hedge against future financial repression. There's also tax benefits along the way as well. Now, the other way you can use real estate as getting your wealth outside the system is by buying real estate in other countries. There are other countries, plenty of them actually, that allow paths to residency or even citizenship through purchasing real estate in those countries. The fourth way to get wealth outside the system is very unconventional when
I gotta stop that real quick, just because he said, like, I love this guy's channel. Whatever. But anyway, I'm passionate about this stuff. But that's why one of my plans is to buy real estate in a Caribbean country. Because the Caribbean country will allow me to leave the United States if they ever want to act stupid. It's not like it's better to need it and not have it than have it. And not need it. Yeah, I think that's how that phrase goes. Who knows? I don't know. Just play. But in real talk, though, this is why it's so important. Using debt with dollars that are losing value. So in the future, when I pay down that money, the debt stays the same, but dollars are worth even less. So paying it back with cheaper dollars is a better deal. This is why the rich love leverage, because once you get so much wealth, well, now you can use leverage to benefit you in times like this. And this is why we need to get our financial situation together so we can be one of the few who can benefit in the situation. Because as I'm sure you realize, so people who aren't watching this channel or channel Heresy Financial, they don't know anything about this. Mainstream won't tell you, political parties won't tell you, or even political commentators won't tell you. No one understands the depth of what can happen. And the reason why I'm staking what I'm doing in my life with what he's saying right now is because people in power are a slave to that power. When someone only cares about money, then it's very easy to control them through money. So if you have enough money, you can control these people, which means if they are a slave to money, they will do anything for it. which is why you're seeing the political chaos that we have. But they're still making money. The moment the money falls apart, you'll start seeing these alliances with the elite start fall apart because they only care about money. It's their one weakness. It's the money. So if we turn money around on them, well, now they lose their power. So that's why I'd rather have it and not need it, even though I'm pretty sure I will need it because I know they're going to do this when they start printing again. The moment they start printing again, it lets me know what they're doing. Just not enough people have realized it yet. But when enough people realize it, like he said, it's too late at that point. That's when you're going to see the hoopla, like, oh, yeah, the debt's real bad. Oh, yeah, we'll do something. At this point, the damage is 70% done. You guys are just figuring it out. Now you can't get out, like he just said. You have to be a step ahead. All governments as an entity are only for themselves. They do not serve you. The only difference, and it's a small difference unfortunately, but in the United States Constitution, it's explicitly written that the government has to serve the people, which in real terms means you must be voted by us. But the whole point of the Constitution is the people understand the responsibility that comes with that. We must take ownership of our lives, because if we don't do that, we allow the government, which is what we do as we vote. This is what it means as a populace to vote the way we do. It tells you what the people want at this day and age. And unfortunately, what the people want right now is, hey, I want more entitlement spending. I don't want to take responsibility no more. They'll just throw $2,000 in your face instead of doing real research, getting uncomfortable, making, having the hard conversations like politics. Everyone hates politics, but if you can't have the hard conversation, then they're going to tell you sweet lies while pillaging you, which is what they're doing now. And they're going to keep doing it. And it is what it is. Like, at the end of the day, you can believe whatever you want to believe. But I know what they're doing financially. They're just going to pillage you, take all the money, and run away like they already are doing. Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, they already bought real estate properties in New Zealand, because New Zealand is a #1 free country in the world right now. So if you have a property in New Zealand, you'll be able, in the metrics, you can look this up. In the metrics, New Zealand is either #1 or #2 when it comes to freedom score. They're the highest. That's why they're making the bunkers there. That's why they're making all the stuff there. They're planting those roots. Like, I already know what they're doing. Like I said, I'm going to get back to this video, but I know what they're doing. Let's just say that. But I peep game. But I'm trying to give y'all this game. We don't got the money like that, but we can definitely start making baby steps toward it. And each baby step we make will be a mile 10 years later.
You're talking about getting your wealth outside the system, but it's starting a business. Even if it's a side hustle, just something small that you're doing in addition to your regular 9-to-5. The reason for this is because the skill to make money is an asset that nobody can ever take from you. There's a reason why for the last 100 years, 200 years, as immigrants have moved to the United States, whether from Ireland or Italy or anywhere, many times they are entrepreneurs. They're small business owners. The knowledge and the skills to be able to work for yourself and make money without being employed by a large corporation allow you to go anywhere in the world and take those skills with you and still know how to make money. Even if every single last dollar that was part of your net worth gets confiscated by the government, as long as you can flee and as long as you can escape, you have the ability to start rebuilding somewhere else. In addition to that, it allows you to get outside of the corporate system and probably make more money over the long run than a traditional 9-to-5. And then number 5, the last way to get wealth outside the system is actually looking into.
Real quick, I just wanted to mention with that, it's don't look down on 9-to-5 though. 9-to-5, if done right, can be the gasoline to fuel your businesses. That essentially is what's happening to me. I don't know if people know, but I'm an electrician. So as an electrician, we're potentially ought to be making 6 figures. like around 100, 110, I think we're at right now. So me just doing that will be able to fuel my real estate goals, my gold goals, investment goals, lifestyle goals. I'll be able to hit it with the 9 to 5, and I can use the money to, for instance, hire an editor or give one of you guys an opportunity. Anything. It will give me the fuel to do stuff like that so I can facilitate my message. That's all.
Second, citizenships. At least as of the time of this recording, it is still legal to get dual citizenship in other countries, especially by descent. Many of you have parents or grandparents or great-grandparents who came here from somewhere else, and a lot of times you can become a dual citizen of that country just because you won the genetic lottery. If that's not available to you, there are other countries that allow you to work towards citizenship by spending a certain amount of time in that country. And then there are also others that are called citizenship by investment programs, which allow you to make donations or investments in the country and earn dual citizenship that way.
That's what I want to do. That's what I'm planning on doing right now. So just wanted to pause and say that.
These are getting harder and harder and more scarce and more expensive, signaling what we were talking about earlier, that the government is seemingly leaning towards trying to make it more and more difficult for wealth to leave. So better to have some of your wealth outside the system and not actually ever end up needing it than to delay and hope for the best and then someday need it once it's no longer available. If you like this video and want more like it, I have a free newsletter that I send out.
That was basically the video. I think it's really important to know this information today, because if you don't, you are just losing your control out of your life. So when people are looking around, look around our financial lives right now, most people feel trapped. They feel like they're in jail. They feel like they can't express themselves. They feel like they can't do anything passionate. The reason why you're feeling that way is because you lost your financial freedom. And yes, you can say the government is the reason for it and all that stuff, but the government is its own nature. That is the essence of in my opinion, now you have to get, all this is my opinion, but that's the essence of what I honestly believe our founding fathers understood. It's on the people to assume responsibility to keep our government honest. The Constitution assumed that people will keep their integrity outside. We already know about what happened with the blacks and the different ways of viewing, but it doesn't change the fact how pivotal that Constitution was, because it essentially prevented tyrannical governments. That's the beauty of it. It prevents tyrannical governments if the people are aware of it. What they did was they lulled us to sleep by giving us conveniences so they can pillage you at the end. That's the genius of the Constitution. That's the one thing we have outside of any other country. It's what created the prosperity, because now people had trust, because everyone felt, at least back in the day, get to think the culture of zeitgeist is what pushes value, culture, society forward. Even if it's archaic to us, it was revolutionary back then. And yes, and them coming from war, they saw the horrors of war. To them, every day is a blessing. And it was, because the United States wasn't devastated by the war. We had all the prosperity in the world. We just industrialized. Europe was essentially destroyed. And that's where the initiative for the U.S. dollar supremacy came in, because the United States government, because they did have the wealth, came to all the countries and said, hey, we'll help you guys rebuild, but you got to use the U.S. dollar for oil, because they saw the future of oil. Because you remember back then, the car market and industrial revolution was exploding, and that's when they saw the value in oil. It's where the oil OPECs came from these days, because then by the time they figured all that out, well, the United States already has supremacy over it. And because how well we were doing, our culture spread, and then our society looked big and better than everyone else across the country. This is where the American mindset was built on. That power that we had and control justifiably at the end of the day, justifiably. Back then, yeah, United States, you couldn't touch them. But now we are a tiger falling asleep, lulled to sleep, and getting malnourished. I'm going on a tangent on it, but it's important to understand that it's on us. F the politics of it. Your own life. You have to take control of your life. The same way through finance. It's only on you and your community, which is why communities were so important, because everyone had a vested interest for everyone to do well. But it's up to us to take responsibility and protect our own. We just did it as a country back then. Now we're more divided than ever. So the only way you can start is to protect you and your family. And you do that by doing everything that was mentioned in this video. You buy gold, get some real estate after your financial situation's handled. You can't do that before. And I have a whole course teaching the reason why you don't do that. But ultimately, you gotta fix your financial situation, understand what you want out of your life, how much it's gonna cost, and then get the wealth needed to accommodate that lifestyle. Anything after is to not only protect the wealth, but to give it away and give opportunities to people that you care about and causes you believe in, like the Elon Musk SpaceX I mentioned earlier. So that's the video. Thank you for your time, and that'll be it.